Yeah,
Hey.
it's been a lot of fun. Put him on, Johnny! Yeah! Oh, go, John! Go, John! Go, John! You want me to open it?
Hold on.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how many takes this is going to take. Can you hear me okay? Okay. This is very unprofessional.
But you got your tie on. All right.
All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This takes multiple takes. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Not an actor.
Yes, you are.
Welcome, everyone. Are you ready for your weekly dose of stupid yet informative Bengals chatter? Today is a special day. It is episode 2 of the Pod of All Pods, the newest addition to the content game. The band is warming up, and your 2 dumb hosts are ready to deliver. Like I said, today is very special. We welcome on a very unique guest. We're going to discuss the ongoing AJ Green saga, the state of the team after last week's loss, and also preview this weekend's upcoming matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. We're not here for clout, money, or impressing women. We're here to give the everyday Bengals fan a much-deserved comedic relief and an opportunity to make fun of us as well. Let's talk football. The band looks like they're ready to go. Without further ado, in association with Common Guy Entertainment, is our host, Sam Hambrecht, and John Kopetsky's pleasure to present the Mike Brown Band.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, was that pretty good? You like my deal? You like my skin?
It was so good, man! Yeah, we're doing it, dude!
We're here!
Hey, we're doing it! I gotta tell you something really quick. I keep ordering the wrong stuff from my microphone. So this is what we call the acting biz contribution to prop, because this isn't a thing. It just for whatever.
Do you hear mine better?
Yeah, when I'm watching on the phone, like when I'm watching our stuff, yours sounds fantastic. You can just hear me, but it's gonna be a night and day when I finally get the right device for our Amazon.
It's because I'm an adult.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Just
I have
getting there.
I use my voice really well, and I feel like I've matured since I've turned 30. And look how I'm dressed, and look at my hair. It looks beautiful. I'm ready for professionalism. I'm ready for my shot today. Like I said in the intro, we have a very big day. I don't think that you or I either expected to have any guests, let alone
not this soon.
Yeah, and let alone have 2, a pretty substantial following. One being last week with Yaz, and then this week we welcome Joe Danneman from Fox 19 in Cincinnati, and that's something that you've been talking with him and his cohorts over at Fox 19 for months now, kind of, and you've gotten some traction with them, yeah?
Yeah, so it all started, honestly, Joe Burrow's is kind of doing everything well. Started with just joining the team, and then after that, there's a news story with my family and I on our reaction with them, and then he's been doing nonstop sports raps. He's a pop culture enthusiast, and this is just kind of something that's developed on Twitter, and I'm still befuddled to this day.
Yeah, and I think it's we're not gonna let the opportunities slip between our fingers, I'm sure, but this will probably be one of the more interesting podcasts or news outlet or whatever you want to call it that Joe's been on. Hopefully we fit the bill. I don't think we'll choke. But I wore my good tie to show him that I'm serious about podcasting, and I'm excited to talk with somebody that is a Cincinnati local.
He's somebody. Like, people don't understand, like, this guy is there for Big Wednesday with the Zach and Joe show.
Right.
On press conferences day. And he is the guy that sent waves through the NFL when asking Joe Burrow if he should be or think he should be nervous, and Joe Burrow just gave him a Joe Burrow answer. But I mean, he put Joe Burrow over, if you think of
Yeah, so we're using wrestling terms now for our fan base. Yeah. So, but yeah, he's definitely a lot of notoriety, and he's somebody of stature. At least in the sports journalism world in Cincinnati. He grew up in Cincinnati. Well, I mean, just over the border in northern Kentucky. He's
Where?
northern Kentucky.
Yeah, okay.
Northern Kentucky. Yeah. So anyway, so we're really excited about that. We're going to talk about AJ Green. We're going to talk about the Ravens. We're going to talk about the Colts. And then also, they kind of, sometime we're gonna have some news. It sounds like breaking news, and I think it's everybody's gonna hear it from this podcast first. But the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons game is questionable at the kickoff after the Falcons.
You heard it here first,
right?
Nowhere else.
Breaking the news. So that with that said, COVID's kind of running wild, and fortunately, the Bengals are one of those teams that's been not impacted by it yet. That being said, it never, we want to continue to do what we're doing and continue to watch Bengals football on Sunday. But I'm seeing that we have a guest joining. You ready?
Yeah, I got to introduce him.
Are you ready?
So he is the Dancing Destroyer, the King of Sting, the Count of Monte Fisto.
Sam, hold on.
Patience, John. I'm almost done. The Prince of Punch, the Master of Disaster, the one and only Joe the Show Danneman!
How's it going?
First of all, is that a tie?
Yeah, I wanted to look professional for my first big interview.
That's amazing. I got to
get a polo.
Pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Joe, we don't mess around here, Joe. We're as professional as it gets.
You come to the right place because, man, I'm as unprofessional as it gets.
Absolutely. Hey, what'd you think of your intro? I did that specifically for you.
Well, that was excellent. I would expect nothing less.
Okay.
Although I expected it more like in a Mick voice. I was expecting something from Rocky.
I should have worn my tie and a mustache, that big curly mustache and that white suit. But we were pressed for time.
Hey, yeah, and this is our second one, so maybe in the future we can get it right. Sam will come.
Absolutely. Once our budget gets bigger.
Right. So, hey, real quick, I know that you've interacted with Sam quite a bit over Twitter, and it's been, for our family, it's been actually pretty unique. And we knew that this is not the first time that Sam's interacted with folks from the media in Cincinnati and gotten some attention. Famously, what year was it, Sam?
2012.
2012. Who was the person that told you to hold up?
It was Ken Brew. So a short rundown. 2012, it was when the Bengals were 3-5, and I was so emotional. So I called Ken Brew, and I used to do it once a week. And I said, Ken Brew, if we beat the Giants, we're going to win 7 games and go to the playoffs. And he hung up on me because he didn't believe me. But we won 6 out of 7 games and went to the playoffs. But I've never made a prediction since. So that was my last redemption.
So yeah, and that's essentially been like kind of Sam and me. We've been cousins all of our life, clearly, but best friends for 20 years, and we've had this type of conversation, a podcast, if you will, but it's just been over the phone for the last 15 years. And so to give you a little bit of background, we just decided on a whim to actually start it up, and we couldn't be more grateful to have you on as our
second
guest.
Thank you.
For those of you who are listening and don't know, you're a Cincinnati native, correct? From northern Kentucky?
Yes, northern Kentucky native. Have lived here most of my life. The only years I haven't lived here would be my 3 years in college, and then the year and a half I spent in Evansville, Indiana, working at the NBC there.
Yep, and you mentioned in college you went to Syracuse University, right?
I did, yes. Go Orange.
Okay. That's okay. And then, Brett, when you would have went there, that was right in the middle of the Big East, too, when basketball was great.
Yes, that was the real Big East. That was the Big East as the Big East we knew of it as. At least when I was a kid, that's what I knew of it as at that time when I was in college.
And I went to Cincinnati, so the Big East, was a little bit bigger, once I got to school in 09 through 14. But I remember before we switched to the AAC, the Big East basketball, just the league play, the tournament, my buddies and I actually, when they beat Syracuse in the Big East tournament to go to the title game against Louisville, we left at midnight from Cincinnati and drove straight to New York because tickets were incredibly cheaper, and we were able to get there in under 8 hours. It was one of the best trips that I've been to. The game was god-awful with Cincinnati and Louisville, but that being said, it was still an experience to remember for sure.
Yeah, the Big East was an absolute monster back then. And I remember, you talk about waiting overnight or driving overnight for tickets. I remember when I was a freshman, we went to the Carrier Dome to wait overnight to get tickets. You could get student tickets, $10 got you into every session that your team played in, and we got to sit with the band. So we're right behind the basket for $10
awesome.
at the Big East tournament, like in the first 15 rows. It was such an incredible experience and something I'll always take with me. And that was a big reason I went to Syracuse, I'll be honest with you, was for the experience of big-time sports at the college level. When I started there, Donovan McNabb was quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I missed Carmelo by a year. Carmelo came the year after I graduated.
That's your favorite player, right, John? That's your favorite player. That
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Everybody liked LeBron.
I've got a soft spot for Carmelo, man. You know, how could I not? You know, people like to diss him. I like to prop him up a little bit. I think Carmelo is a great player. You know, gold medals, national championship, and has never really been on a chance in the NBA to have teammates that could really help him get to a title.
Oh yeah, and growing up, you know, I moved to Ohio when I was 13, and that was right. The summer was the LeBron summer, you know, the high school kid that's getting drafted. But I was a big Carmelo fan from that NCAA tournament, and I decided to follow Carmelo as opposed to go against the grain as LeBron. And I always had that argument, you know, when Melo played for the Nuggets, and even as a Knick, that, you know, Melo would beat LeBron in the end. And then obviously I was wrong, but I'm still a big Carmelo fan. I love that he came back and played this year with Portland. He's very humble, had an opportunity to go to the playoffs and play with somebody like Dame Lillard. And the fact that he's even still playing is fantastic. It's just from a fan's perspective.
The funny thing about LeBron is that's like right when my career started in Cincinnati, was when he was playing high school basketball against Roger Bacon back in the early 2000s. That was one of my first memories of the job, was editing video, cutting up video, and helping put in scores and scripts for LeBron James. Like whenever he played a game anywhere near Cincinnati, even though he wasn't from Cincinnati, it was such a show. It was such a big deal that we would send a reporter there. And, you know, my job back then, I was just a producer. So I would, you know, put things together and, you know, edit tape and all that kind of thing. And yeah, that Roger Bacon team in 2002 that upset him, to this day is one of the better sports stories of my 20 years covering this business. That team upsetting LeBron. The only game he lost to an Ohio team, and it was a high school basketball team from Cincinnati who beat him in the state championship. So even to this day, that's one of the bigger stories of my career here in Cincinnati, just because like they could make a 30 for 30 out of that team for crying out what they did.
Yeah, and unless you're from Southwest Ohio, like you're not very familiar with that. You don't get it. No one.
I did not know that he got beat. I just assumed he won everything. So I'm sitting here like, LeBron lost in high school. Like
one time, one Ohio team, one time.
Hey, I don't know if you've seen Little Giants, but they might win 99 times out of 100, but that still leaves one time.
That's it. 99 problems, but Roger Bacon is one.
So, hey, real quick before we jump into the meat of the topics, I want to crosstown shootout. It's back. Big news yesterday. So I'm fortunately being from UC or going to UC. That game every year marked on the calendar. We were there. We were riding. I was in school when the Yancey Gates thing happened. That was the Sweet 16 team as well. And I have to ask before we move forward, come crosstown shootout day, are you wearing red and black or navy and silver?
I'm going into my closet and finding something that has no color for either school. That is the truth. That is the absolute truth. I have to do that. That's what I have to do.
Fair.
Because of my job. To me,
let's say you weren't employed.
I would plead the fifth on that one. I can't go on the record with that one, man.
I tried, man. I tried to get you. All right, fair enough.
One thing in this town that will get you in trouble really quick would be to reveal any kind of affiliation with either school. I'm a Syracuse fan. That's my squad. The QC squad, that's my college squad. I'll stay with that. But just, I went on Twitter a couple of weeks ago with the hashtag Save the Shootout because I was told about 2 weeks ago this thing was on life support.
Yeah.
And they were getting ready to pull the plug and not play this thing. And I understand UC's argument. I understand Xavier's argument. I understand both sides of it. Nobody really got what they wanted here, probably except for Xavier, which, I can understand. And
It's typical.
The frustration for UC fans. I understand the frustration. But this game is more about the fans than it is the two schools. And so whatever they have to do to suck it up and play the game, I know it sucks for UC that they have to play this game with either no fans or limited fans. When I've always said having home court advantage in the shootout is probably worth about 10 points.
Yeah.
With most games, home court's probably worth about 3.5, 4 points. The shootout's worth about 10. So this stinks for UC. It's a bad break. It sucks. But, for us as fans, I think it was important just to have the game. And I'm glad they figured out a way to do it.
Okay. I'll take that answer. Even though I was expecting red and black, I'll take that response. That was pretty good.
By the way, no one's commented on my background here.
Oh.
I didn't know what is it? Looks great.
My background is a thing, by the way. It was voted best Twitter background at Cincinnati media by myself in 2020.
Oh, okay.
Oh, by yourself. Okay.
So
there we go.
We voted ourselves best podcast in
That's right.
Cincinnati for
Actually,
us.
there
We had
have
2
been
votes.
several people who have taken screenshots of my exploding brain, my exploding thought background here. Yeah. So.
Well,
I just snapped a picture.
I think I got you one up. I've got Paul Brown Stadium, Wrigley Field, and then Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. That's originally where I'm from. So a big Iowa Hawkeye fan as well. Well, both of us are, I guess, we should say. But yeah, the 3 most. Nippert's the next one. So to add to the collection. That's it.
Joe, you already know. You already know. I was gonna say, like, really quick. I didn't get in front of these, but these are real. So I just want to let you know I have all these. I just don't have.
I've got DVDs.
Yeah. Oh God, I know. Did that? That's still haunting me to this day. That was so much fun. That was a lot of fun. I won't go into that too much. That was a lot of fun.
That, man. We were struggling for.
Oh boy. Well, I thought, on a side note, I thought you were like going to do each Rocky movie. So I was exercising, and I'm putting on the music, and I'm like, okay, this is what I would do for Rocky 1. This is Rocky 2. Then I'm like, oh, it's just one thing. Okay, so I already submitted. We're good. Okay, and then I saw yours. I'm like, I can't win now. That was fantastic. I was sincerely really great. Really, really great.
I could not lose that. I couldn't.
Nope.
Not saying I was going to come up with something that was going to beat anything you would come up with. That literally is my life calling. It is
that
the series.
Your pop culture.
Lose this.
No, your references for movies specifically is something that I think makes it is one of the things that kind of developed kind of even where we are today, because I think one time you quoted you put a Rambo picture, and I can't remember what it was. It was because he was dodging the motorcycle or something. Like, this guy just gets it. He gets these movie references, and it's one of the things that has made conversing with you throughout this time so easy. And it's been a freaking pleasure, and it's ultimately led to today. Again, we cannot reiterate. This is so exciting, man. This is so cool.
Fun. This is great.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to check in because I live in Florida now, in Jacksonville, and Sam's all the way out on the left coast. So I have to ask and get a status update on the pulse of the fan base in Cincinnati after
Here we go.
Big slice of, I think, humble pie that Joe Burrow got this weekend and the team. What's the fan base like in Cincinnati, and how are they feeling?
The pulse of the fan base as we speak on October 15th is people are starting to turn on Zach Taylor. That's starting to happen. People are not turning on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is, at this point, seemingly infallible to the fan base. No matter what he does, it's not his fault. Any mistake he makes, it must have been the offensive line or the coach's fault. And that's fine. That's okay. People are going to prop Joe Burrow up for being the number 1 pick, for being the quote-unquote savior of the franchise. And I've done an about-face a bit on Joe Burrow. When he came in, I had questions. I wondered about a guy who couldn't get the starting job at Ohio State, who couldn't outduel JT Barrett to get the starting job at Ohio State. But I think that says more about Urban Meyer than it does Joe Burrow, just the kind of quarterback he wanted to play. And then went to LSU, had an average year, and then just exploded. And then just went nuts for his final year, won the Heisman, set records, won the national championship. I was wondering, okay, is this guy more what he was the first 4 years of college, or is he what he was his final year of college when he looked like the next coming of whatever great quarterback you want to pick out?
Right.
So when he showed up, I was curious. Training camp, he was accurate. He was timely with the ball. He wasn't accurate deep. I was like, gosh, the Bengals need somebody to come in.
And we don't see that. We don't see that because before we could all get on there. And not even like in the games, but in training camp, all you see pumped out is just like these short slants and like as a fan base. So that's amazing that you just alluded to that. We didn't see what was going on. Like normally you could do, they'd have Lap and Horde on the field or whatever content Fox on teams putting out. And we could kind of get, but it's like almost, okay, I did not know that he was not accurate deep in training camp. I did not know that was a thing.
That was a big talking point between Jeremy Rao and myself, even, just in conversations like this or a conversation on TV, that he looks every bit what we expected him to look, but they're not making plays down the field. And the whole point of what I'm trying to say here is I was curious if Joe Burrow was going to be ready to win. I didn't think so. I thought this year was going to be all about Joe Burrow's development and nothing to do with wins and losses. After watching him play a few weeks, I've gone reverse course. Joe Burrow is a ready-made winner, ready to win at this level, but the organization is not ready to win with him at this point. I don't know if that's Zach Taylor. I tend to believe it's more front office, personnel, talent problem than it is coaching problem. But right now, the pulse of the fan base is Zach Taylor over his head? Was Zach Taylor more of a coordinator than he is a head coach? Those are the questions right now we're trying to figure out. To me, I think it's hard to empirically prove either way if Zach Taylor's the problem or if it's a talent problem. I think football's too intricate. It's too complex for the average person to look at and say, oh, that's a coaching problem. That's a scheme problem. Or is that a talent personnel problem? At this point, I lean more to the fact that they just don't have the horses right now around Joe Burrow to be successful more than I am that Zach Taylor's over his head, because I do think Zach Taylor is got the right temperament for the job. I think he's a very intelligent football mind. We can sit here and argue whether he has the it factor it takes to be a leader of men, especially professionals, and that'll be played out here over the next year and a half, however long he has, because the rope will get really short really quick if you keep losing the way he's losing right now. But, yeah, that's kind of the pulse right now. How much is it Zach Taylor? How much is it personnel at this point? And I don't really think people really know.
And that was the one thing I told Sam when we discussed, having you on, as I wanted to see. I wanted to truly understand if they were starting to turn on Zach Taylor, because our biggest observation from the weekend was John Harbaugh came to play chess, and Zach Taylor was unfortunately playing Connect Four. It just seemed like from the jump, John Harbaugh had Zach's number, and it seemed like Zach was in a little over his head. Now, I personally, and my opinion matters very little to the general public, but I personally think Zach Taylor was the right guy for this this rebuild and this kind of transformation out from the Marvin Lewis era into this new regime. And I personally think that he should have this season to prove himself, because if you get 6 wins this year after going 2-14, that's a year-over-year improvement, and then you get into the second year with Burrow, maybe get an offensive lineman or two to help you out. I think the defensive additions this season have actually, it's shown on the field. We just need another offseason like that, and then we can finally maybe talk playoffs and talk other things. But if we're starting, I really don't think we should be turning on Zach Taylor, but I think Sam feels a little bit differently. I don't know. I personally think that we just need to give him the season to really prove himself.
Yeah, I think without question that he absolutely deserves this season. The defensive additions you've talked about, we haven't even gotten a chance to see the defense together as a whole this year, and we won't. Seeing DJ Reader and Trey Waynes out there together, guys they committed close to $100 million over the next several years to really help this defense play better football. But to me, Zach Taylor's here for one reason and one reason only, is to maximize what Joe Burrow can become. And that's not just a Zach Taylor thing. That is an organization thing. And to me, that was the biggest concern when Joe Burrow walked in here. And the questions were legitimate at the NFL training camp, or at the NFL Combine. At the NFL Combine, when he was asked over and over again, Joe Burrow, are you going to come to Cincinnati if you're drafted? And people kind of scoffed at it. And I said, this is legitimate, because this organization has proven at times, even if they draft a great player, a great quarterback, they don't always surround that person with everything he needs to become everything he can become. And that was my concern with Joe Burrow is he can come in here and he can have all these tools. He can have the it factor, the confidence, the cockiness, the ability to get rid of the ball, be accurate. But if you don't surround him with everything he needs to become what he needs, I don't know. I mean, if I were Joe Burrow, I would be curious and I would have been concerned coming to Cincinnati, knowing the track record of this front office, that they've made a lot of bad decisions in the last 4 or 5 years with offensive linemen. They haven't gotten it right. Jonah Williams, the jury's still out. We have no idea. But you just go up and down the lines of guys they drafted. Cedric Ogbuehi.
Don't even say it.
Billy Price, Jake Fisher. These are all swings and misses. And they
Andre Smith.
Money to Bobby Hart. I just don't know. And so Zach Taylor, yeah, he's going to get the time he needs. He should. We've seen how long the Bengals organization gave to Marvin Lewis.
Right.
We saw the rope.
But he's not. He's not going to get that much time. He
didn't get that much time, and Marvin Lewis deserved that. Marvin Lewis took the absolute dumpster fire of the world and turned it into an 8-8 season just like that. So Marvin Lewis deserved everything he did and Marvin Lewis also brokered a lot of power within the front office that no one had ever done as a Cincinnati Bengals head coach. Zach Taylor's going to take a long time before he gets that kind of ability where he gets to say that on the level that Marvin Lewis had here at Cincinnati, as far as guys he wants, guys he gets, people they draft, those kinds of things. So to me, yeah, Zach Taylor's going to get this full year. The Bengals aren't going to do anything crazy like that and get rid of Zach Taylor this year. To me, I think he deserves a third year without question. I think a coach, especially a first-year quarterback with a second-year coach, the growing pains are going to be astronomical, and we're watching them right now. So to judge Zach Taylor after 2 years and only 1 year with Joe Burrow, I don't think is fair. But again, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan who expects results now. And I do understand that Joe Burrow is probably ready-made to win quicker than most people are. He's equipped that way. So I could understand if the Bengals made a decision after the year if things went really south with Zach Taylor. But I personally think his temperament, the way he's handled it, guys haven't turned on him. That's been impressive. We're not in the locker room like we used to be.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, I was like, is it kind of a disadvantage for the media not to be in the locker room right now? Because, like you said, in years past, I have a funny story I might share with you one day regarding 2016. But just like in the beat of that, the locker room, you can actually feel some type of energy and presence. And I didn't know if the media is kind of at a disadvantage now with all these nice pressers that are coming out where players are like, yeah, we're still buying into the system. Tyler Boyd's like, yep, we still believe. And all these players are still, we believe. But as a media member, does it kind of take away from the fact of like, or do you sincerely believe that is the heartbeat and pulse if you were allowed in the locker room?
You're 100% right. You can't read the room the way you did in the past. And there's a pulse and a vibe in a room that you can read, and we don't have access to do that right now. And the second part of that question is we are provided players. We are provided coaches. There's not the opportunity for us to, and look, we're not in that room looking to stir things up, to create controversy. We are looking for interesting television or interesting content. And if you can see somebody that looks frustrated.
You got that last no longer than a week ago or with Carlos Dunlap, fresh.
Right. Those are the things like you notice, and sometimes players will even like nod your way or tell you to come over here. Like Carl Pickens did that once.
Shut up.
So
Carl Pickens.
Those are things that
Pickens, Darnay Scott.
Yes. Those are things, guys who wanted to vent and needed an outlet to vent. It's different now with social media. They can tweet, they can Instagram, do all that kind of thing. But 15 years ago, when they wanted to message out, and sometimes even the media didn't realize that the person was disgruntled, they would kind of pull you over and they would air their laundry right there and get it out there the way they wanted to. So, yeah, things are a lot different. Just judging the way guys act around Joe Burrow. What is he like socially amongst the group? The small things that you observe that really frame a team's personality. We don't get that this year, and that's a huge difference. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. It's a big deal. It's really a big deal. that we can't read the room, see the vibe, see the personality, see the clicks, see the friendships, see who guys gravitate towards. Those kinds of things have made a big difference.
Because I remember in 2017, you and Jeremy did an awesome. You guys were just so active on Twitter. It was after the Bengals lost to the Steelers on Monday Night Football, or maybe not even Monday night. It might have been the Sunday game, the 4 o'clock game. I think that Nance and Romo were calling, and you were like, "Who this locker room doesn't look good right now." And as a fan, I'm like, "What? I mean, what are they doing? Come on!" And I'm trying to tell my dad, he's like, "Well, they're fine." I'm like, now that you bring that up, and just the more that you're kind of watching how season stints have developed, you understand there's a lot of validity to understanding the energy in a locker room.
Yeah, and there's nuance that you see that you don't report all the time, but you just know it, and it frames everything you then see on television or everything you see at practice. And every interview you do, that's in the back pocket of, oh, I've seen this, I witnessed this, kind of like when I'll leave him unnamed because he and I have a history. A certain person went after the kicker, not physically, but just undressed him after a game right there in the locker room.
Could it have been after the Panthers game by chance?
Perhaps.
Yeah, I know who it is. I remember that interview.
And then you see how teammates react and how teammates notice that and how teammates see it, because at one point, the two loudest voices in the room of the Bengals locker room were Vontaze Burfict and Adam Jones.
Right.
And you can see how toxic that could be for a football team when those two are the guys that people are looking to, younger players are looking at as the two loud voices in the room. That's obviously changed because neither one is in Cincinnati still. So I'm curious now, who are the voices? Who are the guys that after a game when things go bad, who are the guys who are saying something? Who are the guys that people go up to? Joe Burrow said after the first game that UC's game was just postponed against Tulsa.
Oh. Well, you're first. Breaking news.
Right. You heard from the Joe Danneman for the Mike Brown Band. UC Tulsa postponed.
Here we go. UC's football game at Tulsa has been postponed due to positive COVID-19 cases at Cincinnati. The game has been rescheduled for December 5th in Tulsa.
Okay. Well, that's and Sam and I were just talking before you hopped on, Joe, about Atlanta and Minnesota. Their game this weekend is in jeopardy due to the COVID cases. So that's, the fact that it's starting to hit close to home is truly a bummer.
Yeah, we saw this too at UC's last game. There were several guys out that didn't play and weren't available, and UC wouldn't actually go on record saying they had COVID. They would only say they were in some protocol things. Yeah. So obviously this is, they have a plan for this. Yeah. People want to freak out. Oh my gosh, they got cases. What are they going to do? This is where the plan needs to go in place. They knew this was going to happen. That guys were going to get it, and they have to readjust and now figure it out. But so far, at least on the college level here, this is the first game locally that has had to been postponed outside of the high school level.
And UC this year is, I know it's the COVID year, but they would have been, a top 10 team, top 15 team, definitely one of the front runners of the smaller 5 conferences to get into one of the Power 6 bowls. And for me, I was in school I was a freshman during that 2009 year with Brian Kelly when they were undefeated and they lost to Tim Tebow in his last NCAA college game down in New Orleans. So this is exciting for UC football to really get some national attention, and now they're going to get attention for the wrong reasons. But hopefully everything is a speedy recovery and all that, and then it'll go off without a hitch. And like you said, there's a plan for this stuff, and we're executing it now.
Joe, I have a question. This is more from like a fan perspective, and as a media member, when you see fans say, "Fire X," for instance, fire Jim Turner, get some is there any validity? I as not only as a fan or just as a human being, I'm like, there's no way if you just let someone go that everything's going to change. Or is that something that you actually think would help the offensive line when you see tweets like that, or when you see the fan base, the Cincinnati fan base tweet about firings and hirings? How much do they have it, and how much is it just hey, this is just emotional, or is there some truth to it?
I think it's emotional just because I don't think the average person watching a football game on television or even watching in person really understands the complexities of playing offensive line in the NFL. So people who look and see sacks say, fire the coach.
Yeah.
Do you really have any idea what the scheme is, what the plan was? Is it a talent problem? Is it a scheme problem? That's where you have to have, and this is where the Bengals, sometimes the front office is a problem, not having someone in a GM position that has played the game at that level can go in there and look at it and see what the problem is. I think to Baltimore, I think of Ozzie Newsome and just the amount of talent he puts on the field year in and year out because he is a talent evaluator. Right. You look at somebody like John Lynch, talent evaluator. Puts guys out there.
And he went out and just freaking got Trent Williams. Like, what I would have done to have, like, John was on that all offseason. I'm like, I'm not even going to entertain him. There's no way we're going to give up that kind of money in draft picks. But you almost are like, do it. Like, just.
But so here's the thing. When you're the Bengals and you're the front office or you're Duke Tobin, can you really put on tape and look at the offensive line and say, that's talent problem or that's a coaching problem? I'm not sure if the Bengals are equipped to do that at that level. Really, the only person that's probably equipped to do that is somebody already on the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Is the coaching staff going to rat out somebody else amongst themselves and have that person lose their job? You don't want to put that kind of karma out in the universe of trying to get one of your coworkers fired like that. So to me, that's always been the biggest problem is I don't know. I don't know if it's Jim Turner. I don't know if another coach could take this and make it better. I don't know if Jim Turner is the absolute right person for the job. He just has JV football players who shouldn't be playing on the varsity level. I don't know.
And the weird thing was when Paul Alexander was here, like the report came out after he left, like there's a podcast talking about how horrible his practices were. Well, maybe that is covered up because he had amazing offensive line talent from 2011 till 2015 when 2016 after Cincinnati made probably one of the biggest mistakes in history, letting go of Andrew Whitworth. But ultimately that kind of led to getting Joe Burrow. But I'm one of the harpers on that right side of the line. Can a coach fix it? Or is it something that is just going to take another year that I have been saying, I'm like, this is just going to take another year because we have to wait till we get another draft because they're not going to pull the trigger and try to trade for the fan base wants Kevin Zeitler or anybody just to pull a trade that big right now, even though anything would help number 9 back there, step back to pass and give it. Because you saw the amount of time Josh Allen had. He used to sit back there like Joe Burrow used to at LSU, and it's part of the success that he's having at Buffalo because he has that much time.
So there are layers to this, and you talked
about
chess versus checkers, John Harbaugh against Zach Taylor. There are obviously things a coach can do to scheme up and help. He could put a tight end over there. He can put a running back over there. He can somehow scheme Joe Burrow to roll out, get away from it. He can dial up screens. He can dial up draws. He can do things to slow it down. He can make some adjustments to plug the dam. Mm-hmm. He can't fix the dam.
With the gum, like Clark Griswold, or is like there's like some real thing.
You guys get some damn offensive line.
We're gonna get some damn bait.
You can plug the dam with some damn offensive linemen. Okay, so there are things coaches can do to scheme to help, and obviously the big complaint from the fan base is, look, he did nothing. There were no adjustments. It got no better as the game went on. So yes, I understand that completely. The other layer to this is the Bengals are now on pace to finish with a top 5 draft pick, somewhere in there. If you would guess somewhere, maybe the Bengals are going to pick top 5 next year. What's that? Another really, really good offensive lineman. Oh, then A.J. Green's $17, $18 million comes off the books.
Yep.
There's another.
You think Carlos Dunlap's $11 million comes off the books next year?
Carlos Dunlap's $11 million comes off the books.
Okay.
Now you're rebuilding. Now you've got all this money, all this capital to go get it, to go build a mammoth and protect Joe Burrow for the next 8 years. That, to me, is what has to be done. That has to be the priority with the money going forward, is putting it down there. So that's the layer to this, to me, that is partly skews what I think with Zach Taylor is okay, so let's see what Zach Taylor does when he gets asset 1, asset 2, asset 3 on that offensive line next to Jonah Williams, and all of a sudden the Bengals are blocking for Joe Burrow like a competent NFL team would, and he gets the kind of time that you saw Josh Allen have dropping back and throwing the ball down the field. So that to me is the layer that Cincinnati Bengals fans should look forward to, is that this coming year has to be rebuild the offensive line season. SZN, like that hashtag SZN line season. That has to be coming up after this year.
So you mentioned something, Joe, within that explanation or anything. AJ Green. I've been a huge AJ Green fan since college. I personally, he's probably been my favorite Bengal of the most recent regime. But it was clear as day. I think I think fans had questions about his frustration and really his contract. Is he going to be coming back next year? And we invested money in Joe Mixon. And I think that's this summer, that was a debate amongst the front office, was Joe Mixon versus AJ Green. Are you in the camp that AJ is definitely probably not a Bengal next season, if playing in the NFL at all? Or do you think that there's a chance that he signs a 1-year team-friendly deal and comes back and supports T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd's development?
So I want to say this first before I spend a couple of minutes on AJ Green. In my line of work, we can't root for people. We can't root for teams, that kind of thing.
Right.
I root for AJ Green. AJ Green's a great man.
I love that. I'm clipping that. That's for sure. That's for damn sure.
Has a spotless resume in Cincinnati. As a human being, as a football player, he has done everything right since day one he showed up. And I think that needs to be said. However, what AJ Green is doing right now, to me, just observing it, is unfair to the Bengals. It really is what he's doing right now. It looks like to me is that he's out there trying to prove he can play a healthy season while at the same time doing everything he can not to get himself injured. He's avoiding contact. He's not firing off the hamstring. He's doing everything he can just to be on the field and put it down there on the resume. I played 16 games. Give me my last contract, whatever team it is, not Cincinnati, because I don't think he's coming back here. And we're seeing it in that curious case of whatever that play was last week on the interception, and then he starts running away from contact instead of going and making the tackle. It's football. AJ, it's a contact sport. And people have come up with clips and have shown he's done this before, that, let's not get AJ Green hurt trying to make a tackle. Okay, I get that. And look, he does deserve leeway because he is who he is and what he's done here. However, we've seen multiple times this year when it's the point of fire or don't fire when going for a ball, he's not doing it. Is it because he's injured, or is it because he's afraid he'll become injured? To me, as an observer, it looks like a guy who's just trying to play games for the sake of playing games and proving he can play a 16-game schedule and not trying to be a productive football player. I had in my mind a renaissance year for AJ Green, that he had a lot to prove, a lot. He wants to get paid one more time. Come out here, prove he could be who could be. And look, AJ Green has never recalibrated what he said about himself. He has said over and over again, I'm still the same guy. I can still be a dominant player. I can still be an elite player. And I bought it. I did. I bought it. I believed him. Why else wouldn't you? Why else wouldn't you believe AJ Green? He has that much confidence in his ability. And we've seen other players go into their 30s and produce. Why can't AJ Green have a second part of his career like Larry Fitzgerald? Why can't AJ Green recalibrate who he is to become Larry Fitzgerald, where you're no longer a deep threat, 20 yards, make big plays kind of guy, where you're a possession receiver, make 6 or 7 catches, get first downs, 40 yards, but be productive? And look, I know the Bengals aren't paying him to be that, but you can still be productive. You can still be a guy who makes a difference for your new quarterback. To me, the thing is, AJ Green has to recalibrate in his head who he is. He has to recalibrate who he is, because he's not the guy that was getting 1,000-yard seasons every year, making Pro Bowls every year, looking like one of the best players in the National Football League. He's not that guy. And I think it's unfair what he's done to the Bengals this year, where he's just going out and just trying to maintain health instead of actually playing the game.
Do you think that he loves Cincinnati and the prospect of playing with Joe Burrow for another 3 years? Or do you think that this frustration is actually something that's real and he's ready to leave just because of everything that's transpired for the last 4 years that he's stayed through, to override the fact that he just wants to play somewhere else and possibly win? Or does he actually just want to finish out his career like he's always said? Because like one thing I said last week, the last time I saw AJ Green that mad, remember after the 0-2 start when Ken Zampese's super offense was running against the Houston Texans, and he came out of the locker room and he said, yeah, I just don't like the way the offense is running right now, which he was genuinely frustrated. But then beginning of the season, he's like, I can't wait. And then last Sunday you see this clip of trade me or whatever he said, but we all could read his lips. Do you think he actually wants to be in Cincinnati so he would do that, or do you think he just wants to leave?
So this goes back to what we said about AJ, that I've always believed him. I've always thought he told the truth. The only thing I thought AJ lied a little bit about was, saying that, he couldn't get on the field and it wasn't about money, that kind of thing. I think that stuff kind of got into his head here the last year and a half. But I truly believe that when AJ said he wanted to retire as a Bengal, wants to stay in Cincinnati, I think he feels comfortable in the environment. He's in here for his personality. His personality is very unique for a guy who plays the position he plays and plays it at the level he played it at. So for him to be someone who, you don't see out in public, who's not flamboyant, isn't a diva. He's just, a quiet guy who does his job and goes home kind of person. So I've always thought Cincinnati kind of fit his personality in that way, and I thought he understood that. And I think playing in Cincinnati was personal to him, and he liked it. But I do wonder, with something like this, the way it's playing out now, if that kind of stuff starts to seep in, starts to poison the water a little bit and starts to end the relationship. Because all the stuff that we're talking about right now is being discussed, being written about, being tweeted, and being shared everywhere. And AJ's not dumb. He sees this stuff. He's going to hear this stuff, and it's going to affect the way he looks at his future in playing football. So if I were AJ and I saw all this stuff, I'd be like, the relationship's ending. It feels like it's come to a head, and it can change. Look, it can change. There's 11 weeks left. There are 11 weeks left, but it's on AJ. It is on AJ to get this right and to play the game the right way and for the right reasons. And I never thought I would say this about AJ, and maybe I'm out of bounds here. Maybe my observation is incorrect of what I'm seeing right now. But if AJ were to play the game for the right reasons and the right way right now, which is just to help the team win. And everybody on the team is saying that. Coaches are saying that. Joe Burrow is saying that. Everybody is saying that AJ is bought in. His attitude is great. All we can do is take them at face value. So maybe my observation is wrong, that AJ isn't out there just not to get hurt and just get 16 games on the resume so he can get paid. But if my observation's right, AJ needs to recalibrate who he is, what his future is going to be. Otherwise, this relationship is ending.
Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from, and I completely really agree. But I'm still going to hope for that renaissance that you're saying. Like you said, there's still time, and we have it, and our schedule, begins to get a little bit, where we're going to be more competitive. We're not playing Baltimore, Kansas City every week. We have Indianapolis this week, and then Tennessee looks like a monster, but we get to play with somebody like Cleveland and Dallas down the road and Houston. And I think there's a chance for AJ to have that. It's hard for somebody because I am a fan. You talk about how you can't root for AJ Green. I've rooted for AJ to be kind of the Bengals all-star, the person that's going to be really the ambassador for the Cincinnati Bengals organization. And he was that for so long, and to see it kind of turn is difficult for me to really absorb. And I hope that what you were alluding to there towards the end is what comes to fruition. As I don't want to see him play for another jersey and another uniform. I want him to retire as a Bengal and potentially just be a voice or an ambassador for potential free agents to come here and for Cincinnati to be put on the map.
You guys
also go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
You guys might be too young for this, but this is kind of popping in my head where it feels a little bit like a parallel to Barry Larkin, the end of his career in Cincinnati.
1990. When did he retire?
No, he didn't retire at 90. He retired closer.
Oh shoot! Now I'm thinking of like when they won the World Series. I'm thinking of Slugfest. Sorry, I don't know. I realized that he was in Slugfest 2003. Ignore what I just said.
It got to the point at the end of his career where it was like this with AJ, where it was, man, we really want him to play his whole career in Cincinnati because he meant so much to the city. He was the one guy we could take from Cincinnati and put out there to the rest of the country and say, hey, we got this guy. This is our guy. Yeah. We'll put him up against anybody you got. And you could also see that his career was going towards Hall of Fame. And so there was this idea of like, okay, but it's probably best for the organization to move him somewhere else, where he seemed a little bit disgruntled, where he wanted one more payday. He wasn't himself. And it's just, you weigh this, the keeping him for the sentimental reasons versus keeping him for the right reasons and trying to find that balance. And looking back now at Barry Larkin, it wasn't the right decision for the organization, but 20 years later, it feels right that Barry Larkin didn't play for anybody else. It really does.
Yeah.
Barry Larkin.
Because I would say the last guy, like I thought Chad was going to be that guy. But that whole season, like that 2010 season was one of the, as a fan, like from the 90s, even with the 90s was probably the biggest disappointment of how that all ended. But it ended up being really good because then obviously we got said player we're talking about right now. But that was one guy in Whitworth, I wanted Whitworth to be that guy, and I still hope he comes back and retires for the Bengals. But it's different when you compare Andrew Whitworth to AJ Green in level of play because Andrew Whitworth's still doing it. That guy is a dog. But I do hope that AJ just like a team friendly, just so he can walk out being a Bengal and represent what it means to be a part of an organization who was struggling for so long and to actually be like one of the guys that say, I hung here, I did everything I could, and I was proud to be here.
I don't think there's a whole lot of Bengals. I mean, it's a very short list, especially from the 90s for the more recent fan. It's a very short list of cornerstone pieces that we've had. And I think that, AJ definitely is in the top 2 or 3 of that conversation. If not, one of the most, at least from our generation, from our era, like I said, we were a little younger back in the day. And all we got when we were in the 90s was the Bungles, right? So the 03, Marvin Lewis, AJ Green, they've all played their part. Chad Ochocinco, even Carson Palmer, who I despise from a fan standpoint. They all played their part in creating the culture in the organization so far. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to pick your brain because I'm very biased to AJ Green, and clearly you saw Sam's reaction. We're very biased when it comes to certain players, but it's nice to have a neutral standpoint or perspective of it from someone that roots for just like that, like you said, the player, as opposed to us wearing his jersey every Sunday.
And I do wonder about the team-friendly deal, Sam, that you're hopeful for. I think AJ in his mind believes he already did signed the franchise tag. That he made
$18 million. Jeremy put out a great tweet. He's like, "This is what the $18 million could have got. It was a house in Tampa or something like that." I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, man, $18 million.
A lot of money. It's a lot of money, but in his mind, he's sacrificing, which is odd. But that's just what athletes think.
But we've had you. Thank you so much for extending it. I only have like one more question, John. I don't really have more questions you have. So
I have one more. It's pretty important. It's a doozy, so we'll let me go last if that's okay, Sam.
Okay. So this is going to be a weird segue, Joe. Have you seen the Santa Claus with Tim Allen?
I have not. I know the movie.
Are you serious? Are you messing with me?
Listen, I am. The funny thing about my idiosyncrasies and my personality quirks, I find something I like. I'm the guy who goes to a restaurant and orders the same thing every time. So when movie I like, I rewatch. So Christmas Vacation, love it, rewatch it. Christmas Story, love it, rewatch it. Home Alone, love it, rewatch it. So if it came on and I have my choice to see the Santa Claus or a movie I've seen 100 times, I'll watch the movie I've seen 100 times.
Okay. Well, just a quick, like how that would have, now I can't really switch it. So I'm going to keep on with the Santa Claus. There's a part where he says name and he says Scott Calvin. I'm going to give you a record that I actually sincerely believe, and you either say yes or no by the time we hit Tennessee. 3-3-1.
No.
God, what? That was so quick, dude. Do you think both losses? Okay, what do Why? What do you think the record is going into Tennessee?
So it's Colts this Sunday, and because I'm in the business of just trying to figure out what's going on today as opposed to looking forward, who's after the Colts?
Cleveland.
At home.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I think the Bengals can win one of those two.
Okay.
I don't think the Colts. People are lining the Colts up right now, 3-2 as a potential playoff team. The defense has obviously been great, unexpectedly great. I have no idea on earth how anybody watched Phillip Rivers play last season and decided to give that man the amount of money Indianapolis gave. He was washed last year. He looked awful. I mean, awful last year. And the Colts brought him in to play quarterback. Boy, I have no idea why they made that decision. And right now it looks like a terrible decision.
Yep.
Because he's not good anymore. He's just not good. The Colts are certainly not unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. The fact that their defense is playing as well as they are, they're going to be tested by Joe Burrow. They really are. Joe Burrow is going to test the heck out of them this coming Sunday. The Bengals have a chance, but I don't think they'll win that game. The Cleveland game.
Hey, talk to me now, Joe. Talk to me.
I'm looking forward to that game because I find Cleveland, and I know I shouldn't say this in Cincinnati, I find Cleveland an entertaining mess. They've always been just an entertaining mess. You never know what you're going to get. And this year they're playing better. Obviously they're winning games. But in any second, that thing can go straight to hell. And we all know that.
Oh, yeah.
So many compatible personalities. That thing can go wild at any second. So to me, I look forward to games like that more than I look forward to games against the Colts. Like this Sunday doesn't do a lot for me. For a Bengals fan, certainly you're excited because your teams are playing. For me, I'm looking forward to that Browns game. I love the Steelers games. I love the Browns games.
Oh, God, yes.
They're so entertaining to me. They're so much fun. So, yeah, I think the Bengals can win one of these two. But I think expecting this team to put together back-to-back winning performances against teams who are competent, have a pulse, is, I think, a lot to ask. So 3-1 going to Tennessee, I don't see it.
Now, hey, Sam does have a track record.
I don't predict very often. Last time was Ken Brew. It's kind of weird how we Tarantino'd that for this moment here. Because
I'm terrible at predictions. I'm not good. I'm more of a feel. Like I imagine seeing it in my head and how it's going to look, and I just don't see.
Could you imagine Zach Taylor on a press conference after back-to-back wins? Oh gosh. Oh. Great energy in the locker room. Guys in the right place.
He was pumped after back-to-back non-losses.
Oh, yeah.
In the win, man. He was feeling it.
And then imagine he gave out 5 game balls, 20 game balls in between those first 2 weeks.
Even Bobby Hart would get one.
You get a game ball. You get a game ball. You get Bobby Hart gets a game ball.
All right, John. This is. I taped up John's hands for this. Even though you kind of alluded to it, but I'm putting him in the ring. I thought was a great question, and this is the last one that we have for you.
Skyline or Gold Star?
Skyline.
All right. That's it. Clip it. That's it. Cincinnati, there is no other option.
I worked at Skyline for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
In high school and college. So Skyline is like water to me. I have to have it. Yeah. Otherwise, I start to detox a little bit. I start to get the shakes.
They're the only ones that have slush puppies as well. You don't see slush puppies anymore, and they still have slush puppies.
They got slush puppies, baby. In fact, the store I used to work at now has them. They didn't have when I worked there, but they now have them there. Yeah. Anybody who I'm not going to say. I was going to say about Gold Star. I can't say it.
Yeah, we used to go there in school all the time. It didn't matter what time of day, at 10 in the morning or 4 at night, 4 in the afternoon.
When you were studying,
study breaks. We always
went there. Are you talking about Skyline or Gold Star?
Skyline. No, I haven't had.
We don't say GS here, Joe. That's BS saying GS.
When your mom tries to make Skyline at home, like, hey guys, I'm making Skyline for dinner. Then you eat it and you're like, this isn't it, Mom. Mm-hmm. That's what Gold Star is. It's a bunch of moms in the back trying to replicate Skyline.
That is bad. I couldn't have. I've called it a little bit worse. That's a fair and that's very nice of you. I think Gold Star is disgusting, but I'm biased again. That being said, man, we could not be more.
Thank you so much. We have so much content. I'm going to be busy, and I might be up at 4 a.m. having some Skyline, trying to cut all this together. And I still owe you our first. We're going to give you a BOGO. We're going to give you this podcast and the one I said I was going to give you before because I just figured out how to make our YouTube account verified.
Yeah.
So I could
Listen, anytime you guys need me.
Yes, John, we got, okay, this is what we need to keep the old train on the tracks here because we don't have sponsors yet. Nobody yet.
Yeah, nobody yet. We're in talks, but this is something that we created out of a whim. We obviously know that we plan on making this our own and producing it and developing it at a better rate, but we're just having fun with it. And to have somebody like yourself to come in and be.
Yes, thank you so much, man. Sincerely. Like you've been, and honestly, man, I probably tweeted you more than a human needs to tweet a media member, but you've been so gracious and always responding, putting the heart button a couple of times. And sincerely, I sincerely appreciate what you and Jeremy have done. Maybe one day we'll get Jeremy on here too. Maybe Geno Atkins if the train's rolling. But probably more realistic, we'll just get you back, and that'd be fine with me, man. We sincerely appreciate it. You guys have been so awesome.
If you guys got Geno Atkins, it would be.
I had a dream. I was up like, I think I just talk about my dog all the time. I know he likes that. I have a dog. I could talk hours about that, but if we do that, then it's over, baby.
Hey, but Geno and I kind of have a history, Sam. I met him at the Las
got a
Vegas
picture.
Airport bathroom. So that was in 2013.
You took a picture with someone in a bathroom?
Yeah. Well, I was right outside, but I was wearing a Bengals shirt. I walked in, and it was funny because I flew there from Cincinnati to Vegas. I met Andy and JJ Dalton and at CVG, and then flew into Vegas, waiting for my bag, walked in the restroom, had a Bengals polo on, and Geno walked right past me, and he goes, "Who dey?" And I was like, oh, and my eyes got this big.
He spoke.
Yeah, so we went right out. I was like, hey, I don't want to can I get a picture? He's like, yeah, not in here. And so we walked out into the end of the way. And that's my Geno Atkins story.
Speaking of people to root for, Andy Dalton and his wife.
I'm so like that guy. And okay, so I just had to share this really quick story, and I'll summarize it really quick. I was illegally in the locker room during the Cowboys game after they got that monstrous loss. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had a press pass, and it was the only way to get a ticket to the game. And I'm not going to out the guy who gave me the press pass. But I went up and asked. I can't remember what question I asked Andy Dalton. That was a horrible game. That guy was kind enough before he went into the press conference, because I didn't know the rules. He was kind enough to answer. Like that guy is. I'm so happy for that man. The way that I think he was treated by some of the. I mean, I don't know if it's the majority, but that guy is just wow. What a guy! I will always root for that guy. Always.
Human being. A+. Yep.
And I think that's echoed across all three of us. So yeah, and we root for him. And the NFC East is incredibly winnable. So Andy's not a slouch. I think he's still got some game left in him. And when you have those type of weapons, especially with Zeke behind there, I think that they have as good a shot as any to sneak into the playoffs under Andy Dalton's leadership for sure. And I'll be rooting for him.
What if Andy got his first playoff win this year?
I know, honestly, I think it's going to happen. I sincerely believe that it's just so weird how everything works out. But the fact that this is a season in the division that he's in, he's getting into the playoffs. Dude, this is going to be something long time coming for him personally to get off his back, and it will happen this year. I'm so proud for it. I'm so happy for that guy.
More breaking news.
What do we got?
Sam Hubbard placed on injured reserve.
No!
Yeah, I saw that he was questionable, or listed as questionable for this upcoming weekend, and I was wondering if they were going to put him on IR, if that's really what it was going to be. So that's two defensive starters down, defensive linemen, big contributors, obviously, this week. So that's more news that is unfortunate. But next guy up, Carl Lawson took his opportunity and ran with it, obviously, at the beginning of the year. So hopefully maybe we'll have same.
Carlos Dunlap comeback season, baby.
There we go. Yeah, that's
ZN, baby. Also, last thing, January 8th, 2021, Cobra Kai Season 3. You're pumped, yeah?
Gosh, I can't wait. Man,
oh, God.
Great series.
We almost made it through the entire podcast without coming up. Yeah, but yeah.
I told him, I was like, I got to that is sorry. I just had to get that out. I'm pumped, baby.
What's the story? I know we didn't time to land this plane for like 3
years. I know, man. We had this problem last week. We're like, we can't end it. It's so hard.
So I'll say this is the final story, and we'll get out of here. So Cobra Kai. So I moved to Evansville, Indiana, in 2009 to become a sports anchor at the NBC station there. My wife and I are going house hunting in Evansville, Indiana, and we, you know, when you go in someone's house, you look around, you look at the floor plan, the kitchen, the bedroom. Oh, let's check out the closet space. I walk in this guy's closet. Don't know who this guy is. And I'm nosy when it comes to these kinds of things. I see like something in like plastic wrap in his closet. And I'm like, what is that? And I look at it and it's a full black Cobra Kai outfit.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God.
Honey, did you move in that house?
So no, what I did was I told my wife to ask the realtor in the backyard. So she went to the backyard. I took this thing out and I put on the jacket of the Cobra Kai thing and put on my yellow belt, took a selfie with it on. And so I have a selfie of me wearing some random guy in Evansville's Cobra Kai. I don't even know what you call the jacket.
Yeah, it's on the commercial. It's like a gi, right?
You have to post that picture when they release season on January 8th.
I don't have it anymore. That was taken on like an old like flip phone, and I lost it.
So real quick, and then we'll land the bird.
Yeah.
Was your wife on board, or did you just like? Was this like a hey? Can you have her just kind of distract her for a minute?
The biggest eye roll any human being could ever get.
Oh God, yeah.
Talking to my wife, she's like, "You've got to be whatever." Just did it. Yeah.
That was it's oh wow, whoops. So anyway, Joe Danneman, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much.
We can't wait to do it again, and hopefully this weekend the Bengals do get a win, and we maybe have a chance for back-to-back, Colts, and go 3-3 before 3-3-1, before Tennessee. But other than that, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll hear from us on Twitter. So we'll talk to you then. All right. Thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, man. I gotta go rake some leaves.
All right. See you, buddy.
See you later.
All right. What'd you think?